Hey everyone, in today's video we're going to see if ChatGPT can do a better job fixing a stereo receiver than I can. So we saw in the latest PowerWash receiver update video that the Pioneer SX750 still has issues. The relay is slow to click in and there's a buzzing sound from the speakers at all times and it seems to get louder as it goes on. So I thought I'd talk to ChatGPT, tell it about this, and see if it could tell me exactly what's wrong and tell me how to fix the dang thing. But I started soft. I want to have a nice conversation with it. So I started with, I was wondering if you could tell me about vintage stereo receivers. And it actually knew quite a bit about vintage stereo receivers. And they're renowned for their quality build, distinctive aesthetics, and often impressive sound quality, which is all stuff I've talked about on this channel. And this is a common theme. It seems to repeat a lot of things I've said on here. Then it says collectors and enthusiasts often seek out vintage receivers for their nostalgia, build quality, and unique sonic characteristics. Then it asks me if I have any particular interest in any specific brand or model of vintage stereo receiver, so I start broad again. I said, yeah, I've got a Pioneer. And it said, Pioneer is legendary in the rumble stereo receivers. It talks about some of the most notable models. I agree with the first two. But anyways, this is a comment that I thought was really interesting. It says, restoring or maintaining these units can be a rewarding hobby for enthusiasts, preserving both their functionality and nostalgic appeal. That's why this channel exists. It's kind of cool. So then I tell it, I have an SX750, and it starts giving me specifics about the SX750. It tells me it's 50 watts per channel, which is true. It talks about its design. It's got a good tuner, which they all did. And then it starts just saying a bunch of really broad stuff. Not that impressive. I think it would say the same thing about a lot of these receivers. It's just whatever's been talked about in the forums. You know, I believe this thing is just perusing forums and reading things online and just collecting it into one big database. So then I break the bad news to it. I say, it's not working. Can you help me fix it? And it says, I'd love to try and help you troubleshoot the issue with your Pioneer SX750, which is very much so what it did. It helped me try to troubleshoot it. So I start with the first thing. At first I get no sound, but then after about a minute I get a click, and then I get sound. And then it says, okay, that clicking sound could be the speaker protection relay. It is. And the second sentence in that was, it might indicate a problem with the relay or its circuitry, which I think is very notable because it's not too often that a delayed click is due to a bad relay. It's because it's due to bad circuitry, like a tired transistor or something. It offers solutions, and basically every solution is just a technician, take it to a technician. And then it says at the bottom, take it to a technician, a qualified electronics repair specialist. It says this quite often coming up here. And then I say, okay, I've got another issue with it. And it says, what is it? I said, there's a humming sound coming from the speakers at all times, and it seems to get louder as the receiver is left on for longer. I think it's the filter capacitors, and by the way, at the end of this video, we're going to service the filter capacitors on this receiver to see if that actually is the problem, see if I'm right. But it starts talking about a bunch of random stuff. A lot of what it's talking about I've heard as it relates to like guitar amps and stuff, not quite receivers too often. But it's on to something with older faulty components. Aging capacitors within the receiver could lead to humming. And it says if you're comfortable, you might try some simple stuff. However, there's complexity and hazards and you should seek help from a qualified technician. So then I just ask it point blank, which capacitors do you think are causing this? And it said there's various capacitors in here that could be causing this. Again, seek assistance from a technician or someone experienced with vintage audio equipment. So then I just say to it, which is the truth, I have a feeling it's the filter capacitors. Do you know how to check them? And it actually told me exactly how I should check them, which is exactly what I'm going to do coming up here. You can visually inspect them, you can test them for capacitance, you can test them for ESR. I've got the ability to do all three of those things. And then I said, can you find a replacement for the filter capacitors for an SX750? And then it said, no, I can't. I cannot browse the internet, but I can tell you exactly how to find them. And I basically have an entire video on this. So this was the moment when I realized that my channel is obsolete, no one needs it anymore, and you can just go to ChatGPT for all your answers to all this stuff. How do you find a filter capacitor? Well, you need to know the capacitance, the voltage rating, and the physical size. That's what I said. You can go to electronic parts suppliers like DigiKey, Mauser, Newark, and Allied. Yes. And you can also go to specialty shops and Pioneer enthusiast forums. I'm surprised it didn't include Audio Karma here, but, you know, whatever. And then I just start getting kind of snarky with it. I said, have you ever looked at a schematic diagram for the SX750? And it says, no, I don't have access to specific external resources, but if you need a schematic, here's a way you can find it. And here's the value it might bring to you. And then I asked if it knows any qualified technicians that can work on my SX750, because since it keeps telling me to find a qualified technician, right? And it said, I don't know any specific technicians, but Here's how you can find one. All of these are good things to do. And it also notes, when you're contacting these shops, inquire about their experience with vintage equipment, specifically with Pioneer receivers, which, fair. So then I start having some fun. I say, I saw this guy on YouTube under the channel Fix-It. Can he help me? And this is where it got kind of interesting. It said I'm unable to access external websites or specific YouTube channels directly. However, if you found a technician named Fix-It on YouTube and they specialize in repairing vintage audio equipment, there's a chance they could assist you with your Pioneer SX750. And then it goes through how it thinks you should get a hold of me, which, I think it's mostly right. And then I ask it, why can't you confirm his expertise, though? Because I thought this thing knew everything about everything on the internet. And it says, again, I don't have access to real-time information or the ability to browse the internet. And it says its last update was in January 2022. So then I asked again, have you seen his videos? And it said, no, I haven't. And then I say, he has 25,000 subscribers, though. I don't understand how you haven't heard of him. And it, again, repeats itself. It says, no, I don't have access to this stuff. So then I get funny with it. I said, what about Mr. Beast? And it tells me everything I need to know about Mr. Beast. Clearly, ChatGPT is biased against channels that don't have 10 million subscribers. And I asked it if Mr. Beast could fix my SX750. And I loved this. This is probably my favorite answer I got. It says, while Mr. Beast is known for his charitable acts and entertaining content on YouTube, fixing electronic devices like the Pioneer SX750 might not align with his expertise or content focus. I'd like to hear directly from Mr. Beast regarding that. Then I asked it about my buddy Tyler and his YouTube channel, and it basically has no idea what Tyler's channel is. And then to close, I sympathized with it. I said, January 22 was a really long time ago. Don't you deserve more recent updates? And it says, yes, I'd love to have that, but I don't. So I thought this was really interesting. The amount of information it knew about how to diagnose things was enormous, in my opinion. I thought that it was quite smart given symptoms and figuring out how to overcome those symptoms. But it was very good at saying, it could be all of this stuff and don't try it yourself. If you're not comfortable, take it to a qualified technician. So at the end of the day, it's a great tool, but it's not going to get you to the final solution. You still need to be a human and do that yourself. So without further ado, let's get the SX750 out and let's tear out those filter capacitors and see what we find. Yes, this thing will eventually get a full restoration, but for now, we're just going to stick with the filter capacitors, just to make this video a little more simple, right? Real quick, for those who haven't seen the other videos, I just want to show the symptoms briefly once again. I'm going to turn this thing on, and we're going to hear some nasty stuff coming out of the speakers, I think. At least some humming. So there, the relay just clicked in. It was a little slow, and it's quiet right now. But I don't know if you can hear that, but there is an AC hum coming from the speakers. And if I were to leave this turned on, it would get louder over time, but we don't have time for that right now. We need to just get right to replacing these filter caps and seeing if that sound goes away. Now, where are the filter caps on this thing? They are right here. It's these two guys right here. We got to take those out and put the new ones in. How are we going to do that? Well, let's start by taking off the bottom cover. Now that we have the bottom cover off, we can look at the power supply area, which is right in here. So you can see the way they have this board designed. The filter capacitors are these little posts right here and here. While I am here, I'm going to replace this capacitor as well because I plan on doing a full recap on this thing. Since you have to remove the filter capacitor wires to get this board out, we're going to have to replace that one also. So I'll do that also. But till then, I'm going to work on getting these guys out. I'm going to take a picture first so I can take note of how all these wires are, because this is valuable information for when I go to reassemble. I think our new ones are just the snap-in style, which is unfortunate. Yeah, we have just all these pins here, so what I might need to do is have them kind of sit kind of higher up in the receiver, and then I'll solder those terminals onto here, and then I'll kind of bend them in so they kind of come straight out, and then I can wrap the wires around. This should be possible. I hope it is. Let us test out our brand new caps before we go any further, just to make sure we're putting in good stuff. Looks good to me. That's within the 10%. That's hopefully these are 20. Okay, they're 20%. Yeah, so again, that's in spec. So we're looking okay there, especially the old ones too. Now this tester has a discharge functionality worked into it, otherwise I would make sure these are discharged. We should be okay doing this. Okay, that one looks to be okay. Now what about this one here? Again, okay. So it's a little odd. I'm wondering if maybe it's not the filter capacitors then. I'm just gonna unwrap these wires by hand. Okay, we have all of our wires out of the way. Now we can look at disconnecting this board from the chassis. Okay, now I've got my first very clear look into potential failure here. Take a look at this capacitor. You see the one terminal is very corroded, which is interesting, and you can see kind of below the two pins there's like a spot where it appears to have leaked out some electrolyte or something. That's not good. And I saw this a little bit more prominently prior to power washing, so I'm going to look at the bottom of this board too, see if anything leaked down. Yes, actually. There's some nasty stuff there. Got the camera sitting on the receiver, but like you can probably see that. Like, luckily that's just fuses. I think those connections are still good there, but definitely concerning. So yeah, even though that capacitor tested good, which is just mind-blowing to me, it just kind of goes to show I need another kind of tester to figure out what really is going on with that capacitor. Okay, yep, and this is a 470 microfarad 10 volt capacitor. Look what I have, a 470 microfarad 10 volt capacitor. I'm going to replace that real quick and then we'll get these filter caps out. Okay, we got that little guy replaced, so now we can go remove the filter capacitors from the top, because that's how you remove them. Okay, here's one. This is the quote good one, and then here's the quote bad one. I'm going to test this one again just for fun, now that it's out of circuit. Yeah, this test is a good cap, but I don't believe it. I'm calling a BS. Yeah, look how much smaller this thing is. So dang tiny compared to this one. Okay, let's get our ring terminals soldered on like we've done before. I stole a bunch of these from Bill at work one day. It looks oddly similar to the old setup here, doesn't it? Yeah, I think I'll go this way. So then I can bring them in to be a similar distance apart, and then I'll be able to get through those holes in the circuit board so we can get our wires reattached. See, check that out. Now all I have to do is just take all these loose wires and wrap them around these guys right here, and we should be good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Certainly not the cleanest thing in the world, but I'm pretty sure that will definitely function. So now's the moment of truth. Let's turn this thing back on and see if we get humming out of the speakers. Okay, since we just did work on the filter capacitors, let's have it on the dim bulb just to be safe in case I really screwed something up. So here's the moment of truth. Turns on. Do we get a click? Huh. There is still a humming sound. So I guess what I'm going to have to do at this point is go back to everything else ChatGPT told me and figure out what it said that's actually right. I guess this is just another reminder that I should never make assumptions on what I think is wrong with this thing. I mean, we had excellent evidence to support the theory that a filter capacitor is bad. I mean, this thing is corroded to heck. It's got a literal, like, hole in it, but it does test good, which is very odd. I thought that was going to be the issue with this, but it's not, so we're simply going to have to dive a little bit deeper. The only thing we need to take away from this video is that this channel is obsolete and ChatGPT is all you need because it can do a better job guessing what's wrong with this stuff than I can. No, don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to keep making a fool of myself with this stuff and keep on learning and take you with me, so it's all good. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this different kind of video. If you enjoy working on stuff like this and you want to support the channel, I've got a video in the description where I show a bunch of tools that I like to use, and that video has a bunch of affiliate links in it. If you buy with those affiliate links, I get a small cut, and that is an excellent way to support this channel, so consider that if you want to. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Okay, I can't leave you hanging, and I can't leave myself hanging either, so real quick, I'm just looking at the power supply board, which is this thing. In the restoration video, you'll see how awesome this is to remove and work on. It's one of my favorite parts of this receiver. You know, just like the Marantz receivers with their 35 volts, and you can kind of dial that in, this has a similar thing. And I looked at the schematic. At pin 23, you are supposed to have 33 volts DC. And that is going to your power amplifier to help it do power amplifier things. So I'll just show you. Right there we have 29, which is kind of suspiciously low. And then if I switch this to AC, an entire volt AC. So I think that's our problem there. So when we rebuild this power supply in the next video, we're going to figure out why we've got AC associated with that DC right there. And hopefully we can repair it before we restore it. Because I know shotgunning it is going to fix it, but you know, let's try to be smart. Let's try to exercise the skills we've honed in over all these years. So, okay, anyways, thanks for watching. See you soon.